All right, let's get started. So welcome to the May monthly call. This is Misty Woods, and I'll be conducting the call today. We had a slight delay because we had a mix-up with some Zoom links, but we should be good to go now. All right, so in today's call, we're going to talk about some SFSP reminders, some SSO reminders, as well as some CEP reminders. And then we're going to go over the administrative review high risk, and then some final rule reminders, as well as some legislative updates, some information about Sunbucks. We'll go over the memos since the state update, and then we'll go over some upcoming training and some additional reminders. All right, first let's talk about summer feeding program. So I had Toya send me some reminders to remind everyone. So this is just a little quick reminder that all sponsor applications should have been submitted by Monday, April 28th. And then once your sponsor application has been approved, you can continue to create revisions to add additional sites by May 31st. And it has to be at least 14 days prior to the start of your summer feeding operations. So refer to this chart for your due dates. Okay, let's talk about site requests. So if your organization was approved in 2024 for summer feeding and are in good standing with the state agency, and you would like to offer non-congregate feeding, you will need to submit a request to us via the Request a Site feature that's been added to the CNP website. Also, if you would like to add a new congregant site that you did not operate in 2024, you must also submit a site request. And just a reminder that areas considered already have been served will not be eligible for non-congregant site requests. So in order to access the Request a Site feature, you're going to go to the purple Summer Feeding tab after you log on to the website, and you're going to select Applications from the left-hand column menu. And then you're going to select Request a Site. So when completing the site request form, please include the site name, the contact phone number, and the reason for the request. While this can be used to request both congregate and non-congregate site additions, you must please specify that it is a non-congregate site request when applicable. The state agency must designate sites as non-congregate due to USDA guidance and regulations. You will also need to answer if the site has participated in any child nutrition programs before, or if it's a new site, the anticipated start date of the operations, and the physical and mailing address. Lastly, you will need to update the pre-operational site visit form, which can be located on the CNP website under Resources and Memos, completed by your sponsoring organization, as well as a valid LDH permit to operate for the site. The pre-operational site visit should be uploaded via the pre-approval form button. Please note that non-congregate feeding sites must have their feeding plans submitted to LDH for approval. If meals are shelf-stable, they may not require a permit, but LDH still should be notified for all non-congregate feeding plans, just as they are notified for congregate feeding plans. Once you have completed all the information, you can submit the request to the state agency for consideration, and the state agency will return with comment any sites where additional information is needed. So if you have any questions relating to the summer feeding program, you can contact Toya Porter, and her email and phone number are on this screen, and she'll be able to help you navigate through your questions. All right, so let's go over the Seamless Summer, some reminders for that program. So as we talked about before, the Seamless Summer application, or should I say waiver, is open. Please submit at least 2 weeks prior to the start of your operation. And as well as the Seamless Summer is comparing to summer food service, you have to submit the application on the CNP website, except we're going to be under the green school food service tab. And it's going to be, the heading is going to be seamless waiver. So in this situation, one application is completed for each participating site, where for summer feeding, there is a sponsor level application. If possible, please submit all your application, all your different facilities together in one single submission. If a sponsor intends to offer seamless summer beyond June 30th, a new application must be submitted for each site planning to operate in the month of July, since it does reflect a new school year. So if the site normally receives severe need breakfast, they will continue that same severe need during SSO operations. During the month of May and June, you will receive the current school year reimbursement rates. But then during the month of July, sponsors will receive the new reimbursement rate. So SFAs are required to review each SSO site at least once during the operation for compliance with meal counting and claiming, menu planning, and food safety. SFAs must also keep production records and menu records for the meal they produce during the SSO operation, as SSO is basically an extension of NSLP and SBP offered during the school year. So since you're basically extending, you must continue to offer the menus that are in compliance with the current breakfast and lunch meal pattern requirements. And that this is another difference between summer feeding, because they have more flexibility in the summer feeding program, where we have to follow the same NSLP and SBP meal patterns. In this case, most sponsors usually choose to offer the same menus that they provide during the school year to make it easy on everyone. Offer versus serve is still a requirement for high school grade levels for lunch, and it is optional for all other grade levels at lunch and optional for all grade levels at breakfast. The same rules apply for offer versus serve. So again, same thing as extending, we do have designated meal period timeframes for SSO. So breakfast meal service must occur in the morning hours close to the beginning of the day, and lunch meal service must occur between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. The same claiming process is completed for SSO as done throughout the whole school year. However, the only difference is that the SSO meal count data is reported under a separate line item, so that SSO claiming data will appear in a light green, and it's going to be displayed below the regular line item. So if you see on the screenshot, you have the regular, and then underneath it is green. So that green would be where your SSO data goes. Oh, that's a duplicate slide. Okay. Participating sponsors must receive an SSO review from the state agency no less than every 5 years. So the reviews of SSO occur when the SSO is in operation. So during the on-site portion of the review, state agency staff will observe meal service at one or more of your sites. USDA does require that SSO sponsors receive their review either the summer immediately preceding or the summer immediately following their scheduled administrative review. So those SFAs that are participating in Seamless Summer this year, if you receive the review, an administrative review this school year, or we will be receiving a review next school year, more than likely you will be receiving a review, and we will be notifying you soon. We're working on that list now. All right, let's talk about CEP. So on this slide is basically the CEP deadline date. So we did April 15th, everyone submitted their population data. And then we actually published that report for USDA by May 1st. And so the next thing on the list is going to be electing CEP. And that is done by June 30th. We will have training on the CEP elections taking place on May 20th at 1 o'clock via Zoom. So if you haven't already registered, please go register on Louisiana Fit Kids, and we will go more in detail about CEP elections for next school year. And in the meantime, if you have any questions about CEP, you can contact Mary Katie Moses or Kylie Champagne, and their email address and phone numbers are on the slide here. Okay, so let's talk about administrative review and high risk overview. As most SFAs, almost all of the SFAs have received their reviews and summary of findings and working on corrective action, and then some are even closed out. And when you receive your closure letter, once that comes in and the summary findings come in, we actually score and determine if an SFA is high risk. And so when you receive your closure letter, right after that is when you're going to receive your high risk letter. So I kind of want to go over with everyone the process. So we talked about this at the state update. We are now approved for a 5-year cycle, and we have to conduct targeted follow-up reviews for any SFAs that's been designated as high risk. And those follow-up reviews have to be done within 2 years of the initial administrative review. So like I just said, upon completing of the administrative review, we perform a risk assessment to determine if you are considered high risk. Analysis of the risk is based on the violations or findings that occurred when completing the administrative review and the procurement review. We use the different administrative review modules when determining if an SFA is considered high risk. So each module has a high risk point threshold. Some findings will automatically identify as high risk, such as a repeat finding. And these findings are going to be given the maximum points required to ensure that the SFA is identified high risk in the module where that particular violation or finding has occurred. So if a particular module meets or exceeds that point threshold, that SFA is considered high risk in that module, and the follow-up review of that failed module will be completed by LDOE or a contractor within 2 years of that initial review. So the process is you receive your administrative review preliminary closure letter, and then you're going to receive a high risk letter if you're determined to be high risk in one or more of the modules. And the letter will list the modules that you were determined to be high risk in. So here's some information about the follow-up reviews that may answer some questions that we've been receiving from SFAs. So again, repeating that has to be completed within the 2 years of the initial review. It states in our USDA approved plan that the SFAs will receive the preliminary closure letter, but the file will technically remain open until the high risk module is completed. So at this time, we have not scheduled the follow-up reviews. We're working on the schedule once all the reviews for this year have been completed to have an accurate number of follow-ups to add to our current review schedule to fit them in. The follow-up review will most likely occur in the second year following your administrative review to give you a full year for that corrective action to take full effect. The follow-up reviews, like I said before, will be completed by either LDOE or a contractor. SFAs will be notified at the beginning of the school year that the follow-up review will actually take place. And again, we had some confusion about this, but I just want to be clear that the follow-up review will only be on the high-risk modules that were identified. So if you were only high risk in meal pattern, your follow-up review will only be on meal pattern. It will not be a full-blown review again. It's only on those sections that were identified as high risk. Because basically the purpose of this follow-up review is to ensure that the findings that were on the review have been resolved and we can actually close that review after. Okay, so let's go over some final rule reminders that are specifically of the changes that are taking place or are effective as of July 1st, 2025. We've gone over different sections of the final rules, but I just want to remind everyone, being that it's the end of the school year and some changes are taking place as of July 1st. Okay, so let's talk about added sugars first. So the final rule established the following added sugar limits to school lunch and breakfast program. So beginning July 1st, there's a product-based limits that are going to be implemented. So breakfast cereals may have no more than 6 grams of added sugars per dry ounce. Yogurt may have no more than 12 grams of added sugars per 6 ounces, or you can say 2 grams of added sugar per ounce. And then flavored milk may have no more than 10 grams of added sugars per 8 fluid ounces, or for flavored milk that's sold as like a smart snack for middle and high schools, 15 grams of added sugar per 12 ounces. Okay, let's talk about NSLP after school snacks, how is in the final rule. We didn't spend a whole lot of time on this, so that's why I wanted to go over this. So the final rule aligns National School Lunch after school snack meal pattern requirements for K-12 children with the CACFP snack meal patterns. And this again is effective July 1. So the rule does not change the requirements for after school snacks served to preschoolers because those existing requirements stay the same. But CACFP snack is a little bit different as far as meal pattern than after school snack. So you have to have 2 of the following components: fluid milk, vegetables, fruits, grains, and meats. The main difference here is your grains and your milk. So here is the CACFP snack meal pattern. The thing to note is that for milk, you must serve unflavored milk to children 2 to 5 years old. Or the second thing is you may serve unflavored or flavored milk to children 6 and older. But the kicker here is the grain-based desserts. And this was effective because you didn't have to worry about grain-based desserts in NSLP, but now you have to worry about it that it's now having to align with CACFP. Grain-based desserts can no longer credit. They cannot be used to meet that grain requirement. And the grain items from Exhibit A with the superscripts 3 and 4 are not creditable in NSLP anymore as of July 1. And we'll look at Exhibit A on the next slide. So basically, this is Exhibit A from the Food Buying Guide. Anything in red is no longer going to be creditable in NSLP after school snacks. So depending on what you're currently serving for NSLP after school snacks, if you're serving anything that's currently listed in red, those grains will no longer be creditable for the snack program. So take a look at this when you get a moment and see if you need to adjust your snack meal plan and your menu planning for snack items. All right, another thing that the final rule, and we've talked about this on numerous occasions, that USDA has established the regulations, a new threshold for school food authorities that use exceptions for Buy American. The limit on the percent of total commercial food costs from non-domestic foods will be phased in over 7 years. It's starting next school year. So beginning 25-26, the non-domestic food purchase cap will be 10%. On this slide, we've talked about this before. These are the regulations for Buy American is 7 CFR 210.21 and 7 CFR 220.16. And that's specific. It gives you the definitions of Buy American, the required language, the limitation, and the exception, as well as the temporary accommodation, which we'll talk about in a few more slides. So on this slide is the link to the Buy American exceptions tracking standard form. Again, this is an optional template that school food authorities can use to document the use of exceptions to purchase non-domestic foods under the Buy American provision. This has been added to the CNP website. The link on this slide, though, will take you to the USDA website. Again, it's a template, it's a form, but you still have to track it. You don't necessarily have to use this form. We recommend you use this form because this is what USDA has sent as an example. However, you can use what you need as long as you are tracking those non-domestic purposes. So in that form, you're going to input the data like we talked about, and you can also refer to previous trainings where we gave examples exactly how to complete the form, but there are instructions on the form. So you're going to input that data into the exceptions tracker tab, and then the exceptions summary tab will help you calculate its percentage of cost from non-domestic products within that specified time frame. So again, you must document this and be able to produce this documentation if needed. You don't need any type of pre-approval or waiver from us to use the exceptions under that Buy American provision. If you purchase a product found even on the non-available articles list, you still must include it on that tracker for the purpose of accurately tracking those total non-domestic costs. So if you need more information regarding the process about the Buy American, you can refer to USDA Memo SP 09/2025. So if you are seeking a temporary accommodation from that Buy American threshold requirement, you should complete and submit to us the SFA accommodation plan that's attached in the Buy American memo. We'll go over the actual memo that we posted where you can also find the form. Because we have to, first of all, we have to approve it. Second of all, we have to report to our regional office on a quarterly basis the total number of accommodations requested, the total number that we approved, and then the types of non-domestic food products that SFAs are requesting accommodation for. And we will provide technical assistance to the SFAs to support that temporary accommodation as an SFA submits and demonstrates that they're unable to meet the requirement. So here is kind of a screenshot of what the form looks like. You're going to submit the form to the main email address, childnutritionprograms@la.gov. And then we also added a memo as well as the form to our CNP website. When we receive the request, which we have received, I think 3 so far, we will review the completed request for accommodation, and then we may approve the request. If we need more information, we will reach back out to you, and then we will notify you in writing if you're approved. And then again, we will continue to provide the technical assistance to you to help you meet this requirement. And again, this accommodation is only for next school year, the 25-26 school year. Okay, let's talk about some legislative updates. So the 2025 legislative session is well underway. And as a reminder, the Department of Education Division of Nutrition Support has not taken a stance on any legislation relating to child nutrition programs during this session. However, we do want to share the information regarding the proposed legislations that may impact school nutrition programs in Louisiana so that you're aware. Okay, so first, on the Senate side, we currently have 3 pieces of legislation that are applicable to child nutrition programs. So first, we have the Senate Bill 117 by Senator Migueles. This bill was heard and passed through the Senate Education Committee. It would restrict the use of 7 food dyes and 8 additional ingredients used in ultra-processed foods used in school nutrition programs. This would impact both public and non-public schools. As the bill went through the Senate floor, an amendment was added that states, beginning 27-28 school year, any public school that participates in a federally funded or assisted meal program, or any non-public school that receives state or federal funding, shall ensure that a minimum of 20% of food purchased by the school is produced in Louisiana. This legislation should now be heading toward the House Education Committee for review. Next, we have Senate Bill 14 by Senator McMath, presented in the State Senate Health and Welfare Committee. And this proposed legislation restricts the use of 7 food dyes and 12 additional ingredients from school meals. Again, this legislation applies to both public and non-public schools that are on NSLP. And while there is more to this legislation that doesn't apply to child nutrition, currently this would go into effect for school meals in school year 26-27. And this bill has passed the Senate committee and will go to the Senate floor next. And then lastly, we have Senate Continuing Resolution 20 by Senator McMath, and this is being heard in the Agricultural, Forestry, Aquacultural and Rural Development Committee. Senate Continuing Resolution 20 memorializes Congress and the USDA to reinstate and fund the local Food for Schools program. So on the House side, we have House Resolution 3 by Representative Ecolas, I'm not sure if I'm saying that name right, that requests the Department of Education to study the feasibility of and potential costs associated with Senate bills discussed on the last slide. This report would be due to the House Committee on Education no later than 60 days prior to the convening of the 2026 session. House Resolution 4 urges and requests the U.S. Congress to support funding for purchasing American-grown agricultural products and the removal of ultra-processed food and beverages from K-12 public schools. In this document, it doesn't appear that ultra-processed is overtly defined. Again, our department is here to provide information to you and to answer technical questions for stakeholders throughout the legislative process. If you would like to be involved, please contact someone from SNAL or your SNAL chapter or your region, and they can help you get involved. Okay, let's talk about Louisiana Sunbucks. So Sunbucks provides a one-time $120 benefit to help families buy groceries for each eligible school-age child during the summer break. Most children will automatically be enrolled if they were born between August 8th of 2006 and July 1st of 2019 and received SNAP, Family Independence Technical Temporary Assistance, Kinship Care Subsidy Program, or income-based Medicaid benefits anytime between July 1st of 2024 and August 8th of 2025, or the child does attend a school that participates in National School Lunch and or school breakfast and was individually approved to receive free or reduced price meals. Children who attend CEP schools will need to apply if they do not qualify through the other methods that have been described. Benefits will be distributed in mid-May and loaded onto existing EBT cards or mailed on new cards in plain envelopes. Families need to make sure that their mailing address is up to date and hold on to their child's EBT card for future uses. And for general information about Sunbucks, including the frequently asked questions, we ask that people visit the USDA website about summer or Sunbucks. So what can you do to help maximize the Sunbucks for your students? So number one, encourage your families to use Sunbucks. Make sure eligible families know how to access the program. You can direct the parents right to the source of information. Direct them to Sunbucks at la.gov or .la.gov. Go to that website. Parents may have questions about eligibility and how to apply or how the program works. That's where they would find all that information. In your district, spread the word, let the households know about the Sunbucks program. Encourage those families to ensure their mailing addresses are up to date and that all of their information, all those case numbers or whatever are all correct. And then remind any families that have lost their cards to either call the number on the screen or visit that website to make sure that they can find it and request a replacement card if they need to. And again, we are not the lead agency on this. DCFS is the lead agency, but we can get you to the right information if we need to. Okay, let's go over some memos. We don't have a whole lot of memos to go over today. Okay, so these are the memos. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different memos to go over. So memo SFS 25-49 is about the March SNAP antenna files that were uploaded to eScholar Direct Match. You had to resolve those matches that were in there to help you. Hopefully you did that so that you can use it towards your CEP population. And as always, if you need any more information or have questions, you can email Jane. The next memo was a memo SFS 25-50, and this was a memo regarding some summer feeding deadline dates and some updated LDH guidance. So refer to that timeline for the important deadline dates in the updated LDH guidance. It included that school food authorities that participate in NSLP and school breakfast and planning to continue that food service operation through the summer under their current annual permit will not need additional inspections for that summer feeding program. So when completing that non-congregate application, you just upload a copy of that LDH annual permit and the 2 annual inspection reports. That'll basically serve as the LDH plan approval. But this only applies to the currently participating National School Lunch and Breakfast school sites that intend to operate those non-congregate meal distribution sites. The last day the state agency was going to accept sponsor applications was April 28th. The last day the state agency will accept non-congregate site requests was May 5th, which was yesterday or the day before. And then the last date the state will accept site applications via revisions will be May 31st and greater than 14 days or prior to the operation, whichever one comes first. Memo SFS 2551 is about the Medicaid-free and Medicaid-reduced lunch for March. Again, districts needed to resolve those new matches in the batches that are listed here. And again, contact Jane if you have any questions about that. Those were the 2 files that everyone was waiting on to upload for their CEP population. Memo SFS 2552 is about a USA Rice K-12 training webinar that actually took place on April 29th at 2 o'clock. The webinar was designed to help attendees maximize the potential of domestic rice by showcasing its culinary versatility. Attendees will learn how rice can enhance menus for affordability, adaptability, and nutritional value while delivering meals to students crave and that meet the USDA child nutrition standards. And we talked about this a little while ago, but I'll go over it again. So if you are seeking a temporary accommodation for the Buy American threshold requirement for the 25-26 school year, you should complete that SFA accommodation plan. Has been added to the CNP website. It's also linked on this memo. It has to be submitted to the general email address, and we're going to review those completed requests and approve the requests. If we have any additional information or we need any additional information, we'll reach back out to you, and then we will notify you in writing if you have been approved. So this accommodation is basically allowing you as the SFA to exceed the 10% threshold. Again, we will provide technical assistance to those SFAs that request this to support the temporary accommodation. And if you're unable to meet that requirement, that's the purpose of us giving you technical assistance so that you can get to that point where you will be in requirement. All right, let's go over some upcoming trainings. So today we have our monthly call, May 6th. On May 13th, we're having a mandatory in-person training for the residential child care institutions. And this is only for RCCI. So other SFAs do not have to worry about attending this training. The CEP election is going to be on May 20th. So please make sure you register for that. Then the June monthly call will be on June 3rd. And then on June 24th, we'll be training on the average meal cost and the paid lunch equity tool, assuming we will have guidance from USDA regarding paid lunch equity by that time. We will let you know if for some reason we have to postpone that to a later date, but as of now, it is scheduled for June 24th. And these trainings should be posted to Louisiana Fit Kids. I believe they're posted for June. If not, they will be posted very soon. Okay, so let's talk about upcoming manager training. So the first manager training will be virtual. It'll be June 24th through June 26th. So on June 24th and 25th, it'll be a full day of training, 8 to 4:30. And then on June 26th, from 8:30 to 12 will be more training. And then from 1:30 to 4 will be the assessment. So to register for this training, you must have your own email address. You must have a computer and reliable internet service at that training location. The computer must have audio and video capability so that participants will be able to see, hear, and participate in the training. The assessment is computerized, and participants are required to be proctored by either the director or a designee. And you can, as SFA, wish to host the assessment in a computer lab on site. You can register on Louisiana Fit Kids, and registration is open for this training. So we're also going to have an in-person manager training, and that's going to be July 28th through the 30th. So on the 28th and the 29th of July, it's going to be full days of training. And then again on the 30th will be a half day of training. And then from 1:30 to 4 will be the assessment. So there is a cost associated with this training. It is $75. Lunch is provided. It will be at Pennington at the conference center. The space is limited to 40 people. So please make sure if you're wanting your managers to attend this manager training or any staff to attend this manager training, please register soon to reserve your spot because it is limited to 40 people. For this training to register, you have to have your own email address. You must bring a laptop, computer, tablet, or iPad to take the assessment, and the assessment will be computerized, and participants are going to either be proctored by one of us from LDOE or Pennington personnel. And again, please register on Louisiana Fit Kids. It is open, and again, it's limited to 40 people, so register as soon as possible to make sure you get a spot. Okay, let's go over a few more reminders. So the 2024 equipment grant, back in December, those award emails went out. You need to submit those purchase orders or invoices that you were awarded for those pieces of equipment and do your online request for funding by June 9th. So that's getting close. We're a little bit over a month away. So by June 9th, make sure if you've been awarded that you submit those purchase orders and those requests for funding. Stacy Griffin is the contact for the equipment grant. So if you have any questions or are uncertain if your documents were received or if your reimbursement that you submitted, if it was approved, please reach out to Stacy. Her email address and phone number is on this slide. And we haven't heard anything on 2025 grant. I know we had a couple of questions. We have not received anything from USDA regarding a 2025 equipment grant yet. Let's briefly talk about HMI. I know we've talked about this several times, but USDA wants us to continue to remind SFAs. So if you would like to apply for the HMI, the Healthy Meals Incentive Recognition Awards, the application, the link for it is on this slide. Again, we're getting close to the end of this as well. Applications will close on June 30th. So you receive, if you apply and you get approved, you're going to get a national and local recognition, as well as an awardee toolkit that includes digital assets and travel stipends to attend the National Healthy Meals Summit. We've been having a few questions about health inspections, so I wanted to go over a couple of things again. As a reminder, you need to request 2 health inspections from your local sanitarian office and document your efforts. For those agencies that fail to obtain those 2 mandatory food safety inspections, LDOE will request documentation from those sponsors to show that they've made every effort to comply with federal requirements, and SFA should document their request in writing for proper documentation of their efforts to attain those inspections. Some of you I see have been, emailing and copying us on it, but I'm going to show you where you can also make sure you upload it to our website. So as we talked about before, the March claim for reimbursement, when you submitted your March claim, if hopefully you have by now, a reminder will appear prior to submitting the claim, asking if there are any current year health inspections that need to be reported. A response must be provided. And then when submitting your April claim, you won't be allowed to submit before at the beginning of April until the health inspection reporting has been done. If both haven't been completed, make sure you are contacting that health department regarding the completion and make sure you keep that documentation. So next I'm going to show you what happens if you requested it, but you still haven't had that health inspection conducted. So you can still enter this into the CNP website. You would select the school site like you would be going to add an inspection. And you're going to choose no when asked if you know the date of the inspection, because technically it has not occurred. And for the reason for not inspecting, you will select the option inspection requested but not conducted, letter or date is on file. And then once saved, it's going to show you that you have it entered in for the school site. So the system should allow you to submit your claims. And then whenever you receive that inspection, you can log back in and edit the inspection for that school site. If you have any questions, please reach out to us about that and we can help walk you through that. And then a friendly reminder about the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program for those SFAs that are on the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program. So for 24-25 school year, the allocation period for fresh fruit and vegetables is October 1, 2024 through September 30th of 2025. So we strongly encourage SFAs to aim to have your fresh fruit and vegetable money spent by the end of the school year. Because if not, you're going to have to renew your fresh fruit and vegetable app after they submit their new applications for next school year, since it does go into September, but it's just easier and cleaner if everyone just aims to spend their funds by the end of the school year. Okay, I will check the chat to see if we have any questions. But as always, you can email us at childnutritionprograms@la.gov, or you can give us a call at 225-342-9661. And let me see if we have anything in the chat. All right, I am not seeing any questions in the chat. All right, I don't see any questions in the chat. So, but if you do have any questions, like I said, you can give us a call, send us an email. I know everyone's winding down for the end of the school year, so I know what it's like. I know everyone's counting down their days. So everyone, we will talk to you again in June on the next monthly call. And for the rest of you, just enjoy the rest of the school year as much as you possibly can and get I know people are working on bids right now and trying to get summer school started. Again, if you need help with anything, reach out to us and we'll be happy to help you. Thank you.